It started like any other night behind the wheel until one passenger, one innocent conversation, and one unexpected truth shattered a man's world. I didn't mean to ruin anything, but what if I did?
Welcome to Infidelity Truths. Before we dive into today's gripping story, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us create more thrilling stories just for you. Let's begin.
Once, everything began with a word. But what if that word doesn't mark a beginning? What if it quietly signals the end? Can money ever substitute for someone's heart in a battle driven by pride and loyalty? I don't have the answers. All I know is I wish I had stayed silent. Things haven't been smooth for me lately. Then again, is life ever truly simple for anyone? Most of us are just surviving, not living clinging to jobs like lifeboats, pretending we're not drowning. That's how I hold on to my cab. It's more than just wheels and metal, it's all I've got. They joke that I never say no to a fare, and they're not wrong. But the streets have changed. Fewer people flag down cabs these days. They'd rather pass out at a bar than call a taxi. Rideshare apps, night bus cheap options with unpredictable outcomes. And those stories, those insane cab ride horror tales? Honestly, I think most of them are just that. Stories. My passengers are usually ordinary people. Parents taking their kids to clinics, shoppers weighed down with bags, tired office workers trying to make it home in one piece. But every now and then, someone gets in and changes everything. That Monday started like any other. I was idling near the airport when the ride request came in unusual destination, a remote row of cottages way out in the suburbs. Those kinds of fares can be tricky far out, low chance of return trips. But I didn't hesitate. I accepted. The man who got into the cab was in his early 40s, maybe older, but with that ageless energy. He looked polished, neatly trimmed beard, short cropped hair, coat and scarf that whispered class without screaming it. Still, he had a warm, approachable air. Not arrogant, just grounded. "Evening," he said, settling into the back seat. "Mind putting on some local music? Been a while. Catch me up on what's popular." "Sure," I replied, not sure why I was so eager to please. "Name's Adrian," he added with a grin. "Marco," I said. And just like that, the ride became a conversation. He talked the whole way. Looked out the window like he was watching old memories float by. "You never really know how deep your roots are until you're away for too long," he said. "This is my 6th overseas contract. You'd think I'd be numb by now, but every time I land here, I get this tug." He smiled, quiet, almost shy. "I brought back gifts for my wife," he continued, gently patting the bags beside him. "She's been dreaming of a real wedding. Dove's gown, white aisle, soft music, the whole fairy tale. I'm making it happen this time." He paused. "I lost everything once," he said. "Built a life, watched it burn, and had to start over from dust. But she stayed. Through it all. She's rare." I didn't say much. I didn't need to. The more he spoke, the more I admired him. Here was a man who'd lost and rebuilt her in hope than in cash, but carrying the kind of wealth that mattered. We reached the cottages just after dusk. He leaned forward and pointed. "Turn at the second house." I glanced over and told him I thought I'd picked someone up from that exact spot recently. He paused mid-motion, gathering his things. "Really?" he said, curious. I nodded. "Yeah, about a week ago. Young guy. Tall. Kind of a laid-back vibe." I should have stopped talking. His smile flickered ever so slightly. "Young guy?" he asked, tone light too light. "Shouldn't be. My wife's the only one home while I'm gone." Silence. "What did he look like?" I hesitated, but gave a rough description. And with every word, I watched something die in his eyes. He stared at the house. "That was her ex," Adrian said quietly. Then he whispered almost to himself, "Well, that's that." He gave me a smile, if you could even call it that. Then he stepped out. But he didn't walk straight to the house. He stopped halfway, just stood there, hands in his pocket, staring at the path like it had betrayed him. I watched from the rearview mirror as he stood frozen, his posture crumbling. That hopeful man, reduced to a shadow. I drove off with my chest tight and my thoughts heavier than the city fog. I hadn't meant to ruin anything, but I had. And there was no reversing it. Back in the city, I stopped at a gas station, grabbed a sandwich and a coffee, hoping it would wash away the guilt. I sat on the curb next to my bike, chewing slowly, replaying the ride in my head. How fragile life is. How easily something beautiful can fall apart. And then my phone buzzed. New ride request. Same address. Same cottage. But this time, a generous tip was tagged on, probably from Adrian. A thank you, or maybe a farewell. I headed back. This time, it wasn't Adrian waiting. It was her. She looked nothing like the fairy tale bride he'd painted with his words. Her coat was barely zipped, one glove missing, her hair a tangled mess under a hood, her face blotched, her eyes red and swollen. 2 heavy suitcases sat at her feet. Without a word, I loaded them into the trunk. She climbed in. "Take me downtown," she said flatly. I glanced back at the house. Adrian was standing by the window, staring. His hands gripped the frame, his face pale, still. And then he nodded. Just once. Slow, solemn. A silent thank you. The ride back was long and quiet. She didn't speak, just stared out the window, her breath fogging the glass. I didn't need to ask. I already knew. Somewhere along the way, she had someone who gave everything for her, and it still wasn't enough. She chose someone else. And now, she wasn't leaving with dignity, but in pieces. When we reached the city center, she got out, dragging her bags behind her like they weighed more than her guilt. She didn't look back, just disappeared into the crowd. I sat in silence for a long time, and I kept asking myself the same question over and over. Was I part of this story? Or just a bystander who said the wrong thing at the wrong time? Did I shatter something beautiful? Or simply expose the cracks that were already there? Maybe I was just an unwilling messenger, a stranger carrying someone else's truth. Either way, I'll never forget that ride. The next few days passed in a haze. But Adrian never left my mind. I kept telling myself I was just a driver, just a witness. But my conscience, it didn't let me rest. Every street I turned on, every couple I picked up, every fleeting smile or argument in the back seat, it all reminded me of that ride. Adrian. That hopeful man. That broken man. His voice echoed in my head. I'm making it happen this time. She stayed. But she hadn't. She'd left with tears and silence and regret packed into a pair of cheap suitcases. And he had watched her go. Not with anger. With something worse. Acceptance. By Friday evening, I found myself parked outside a bakery near the old district. I hadn't taken a ride in hours. I sat there, thinking of going home. And then my phone buzzed. Another ride. Pickup. A small, quiet cafe on the outskirts. Destination. Cemetery Lane. Cemetery? Something pulled at my gut. The name on the request stopped me cold. Adrian. I accepted before my brain had time to argue. He was waiting outside the cafe, sitting alone on a bench with a small bouquet of lilies beside him. He looked thinner, older, as if he'd aged years in days. But when he saw me, he smiled genuinely. "Marco," he said. "Didn't expect it to be you." I nodded, trying to keep my face neutral. He got in the back seat, cradling the flowers. "You okay?" I asked carefully. He exhaled. "Depends on the definition." We drove in silence for a while, the city slowly giving way to quiet roads and fields. Adrian finally spoke. She left that night, told me everything, said she didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. They reconnected. One night became 2, then months. She said she felt trapped, like our life was just a memory we kept forcing to stay alive. His voice didn't shake. It didn't need to. Pain like his, it sits deep, calm. It doesn't explode, it just lingers. I didn't beg her to stay, he added. I just asked her to be sure. She was. So that was that. We reached the cemetery just as the sun was dipping behind a row of tall trees. He got out with the bouquet, and I watched him walk slowly to a modest grave under an elm tree. He knelt down, stayed there for a while. I waited. When he returned, he looked lighter. "That was my mother's grave," he said. "Used to come here with my wife when things were hard. She'd talk to her like she was still around, said it helped." We got back in the cab. "Funny," he said softly. "I thought this would be a story with a happy ending. You know, the man returns, builds a life, wins the girl again." "It still could be," I said. "Just not the same girl." He gave a dry chuckle. "Maybe. Or maybe the ending is learning how to walk alone." I dropped him off at a modest apartment in the city. He tipped well, as always. But before he stepped out, he looked at me and said, "You didn't break anything, Marco. You just turned the light on in a room already cracking." I didn't know what to say. "I would have found out sooner or later," he added. "At least I found out with dignity still intact. That matters." And then, with one last nod, he disappeared through the building door. That was the last time I saw Adrian. Weeks passed. Sometimes I wondered what happened to him. Did he leave again? Did he rebuild somewhere else? Or maybe, just maybe, he found peace. But the truth is, some stories don't get perfect endings. Some just end. Quietly. And the people in them learn to live with the silence. As for me, I kept driving, kept picking up people chasing beginnings or running from endings. And every now and then, someone will get in, smile politely, and ask for music. And I'll remember a man who came home with a suitcase full of hope and left with nothing but truth. Sometimes, the role we play in someone's story isn't heroic or terrible. Sometimes, we're just the ride. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and share. And for more emotional, unforgettable tales, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell icon because some stories are too real to miss.